Tonight, Joe Biden will be delivering his first joint address, his first address to a joint session of the House and Senate. But it's not called a State of the Union address. Often in a president's first year, the State of the Union is just not called the State of the Union. And sometimes it's not in February or January. It's coming in April. And we will be live tonight on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook with Joe Biden's first address to a joint session of the House and Senate. We now have learned that tonight Joe Biden will propose a $1.8 trillion plan, which will include national paid family leave, universal pre-K, free community college, subsidized childcare, and a whole bunch of other things. Now, will it pass as proposed tonight? Of course not. Of course not. It never does. That's the same with every president. This is the starting point. But Joe Biden will be introducing his American Families Plan tonight. It is part 2 of the so-called Build Back Better economic agenda. There's the $2 trillion roughly infrastructure and jobs plan that was released earlier this month. This is now going to be the next piece of it, a $1.8 trillion package. It is being called a generational investment in the future. It is billed as something that will help us compete with China. It will transform the U.S. economy. And it includes $1 trillion in spending over the next 10 years and an additional $800 billion, which would be targeted tax credits for middle class families. The proposal also includes cracking down on tax loopholes used by high income tax filers. Joe Biden wants to nearly double the capital gains rate from 20 to nearly 40% for households making over $1 million a year. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's nice that he's proposing it. $225 billion for national paid leave, another $225 billion for childcare. And of course, Republicans have already been criticizing it. They will be against it in their rebuttal tonight to Joe Biden's speech. They will come out against it. What's my thought about this? I think that it is a very reasonable initial framework. We've talked before about, but how will we pay for it? First of all, that's never asked about how do we buy missiles. It's never asked about how we pay for war. It's never asked about how we pay for tax cuts for the rich. It's asked by Republicans when it's actual programs that they believe are either wasteful or that go to people who are undeserving in some way under this umbrella of the morality that they apply to who deserves something from the government. Of course, they're going to be against it. Our new framework for understanding debt and deficit is that not every dollar of debt is created equal. If we take on a dollar of debt to give a really rich person a tax break, statistically, most of that money they save just sits in a bank account with a relatively low economic multiplier. If we accrue a dollar of debt in order to give somebody a better education, which allows them to earn more later in life, paying more taxes into the government, or if we take on a dollar of debt to give someone health care that doesn't otherwise have it, so that now they can get a preventive treatment rather than going to the doctor when they are already sick. And then they miss fewer days of work and earn higher wages. You understand how there are stimulative reasons for the government to deficit spend and less or non-stimulative reasons. The framework here is that most of this stuff would have a higher economic multiplier than just tax cuts for the rich. Now, do I think that this is going to pass as proposed? There's no way in hell. There's no way in hell, because even Democrats are not unanimously on board here with the things that Joe Biden is going to be proposing. So I think that Joe Biden is very well positioned right now with the success of vaccination, the passage of the $1.9 trillion COVID stimulus. Joe Biden has a lot of political capital right now. We've been wondering, how is he going to choose to spend it? And it is going to be on this $2 trillion plus now $1.8 trillion package. Now, I am not looking for, I think I'm committing, we'll see. I think I'm committing not to deal with the really predictable right-wing opposition, which is, where are we going to get this $4 trillion? It's just like, I'm tired of it. I've done deep dives on exactly where we can cut spending. I've explained modern monetary theory and the reality about how a country's debt is not the same as a household debt. We've done it all. So if they're going to just come out and say, we don't have the 4 trillion and we can't keep, quote, printing money, I'm so tired of that. Maybe I'll address it in passing, but I'm not going to address that in detail. I'm more interested in hearing from Republicans good faith critiques of why the spending specifically is not a good investment in the future of America. Like, actually tell me, okay, he wants to do free tuition on community college. Why is that bad? It seems to me that it is, number one, a great alternative for 2 4-year schools for people for whom maybe that's not the best fit. It is a great feeder to reduce the total cost for people who ultimately do want to go to a 4-year school and earn a bachelor's degree. It seems economically stimulative. It will make us more competitive. Tell me why it's a bad idea to spend money on that rather than just throwing at me, well, 4 trillion, where's Biden getting it? Come on, that's pathetic. That's flaccid. It's a very flimsy criticism. So I'm hoping to engage more substantively with criticisms that are made in good faith and that are not just the same old thing we've heard time and time again. That's tonight. Joe Biden will announce it. I will be live starting at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And I hope you'll join me for that speech tonight. One of our sponsors today is Strategic Voters, a new podcast that features election experts, political campaign strategists, and everyday Americans who sit down and discuss the biggest issues in the U.S. political landscape. On the activism side, Strategic Voters as an organization aims to encourage people to vote with the benefit of the country as a whole in mind, instead of just voting one party down the ballot. If you want to hear some really different and interesting opinions and approaches to voting and viewing policies, give the Strategic Voters podcast a listen. The latest 2 episodes feature Rachel Cobb and Lana Atkinson as guests. I've been listening to it myself. I've been really enjoying it. It's very grassroots and independent, which I love. Find the Strategic Voters podcast on all major podcast platforms and make sure to follow them on Twitter @Strategic Voters.